This video is going to cover the initial setup of PowerSDR ke9ns version 2.8. So there's quite a few options during setup, but the first one I normally do, and here's the PowerSDR after you install PowerSDR, is to go and set up compatibility, run program as admin, and the reason is that way PowerSDR can adjust your PC's time clock for programs that can use that, like WSJTX, FT8. So you're going to see this, and then you should see the EEPROM, right here, that it's going to download or the calibrations from the radio itself into your new database. If you don't see that, then you're not doing a new install. For your very first install too, you're going to get a wizard. It's going to come up testing the speed of your computer for as far as DSP work. But I've already done that here, so you're not going to see it. Okay, so I'm not going to make it full screen yet, but I run a full HD, which is a 1080 screen, and I normally like to run it full. I've got 3 monitors. You're looking at the center monitor right now, and I normally keep it on my right as full screen. But this is fine for now. Turn off the tracking notch filter. I normally run in Panafall 8020. I've got a second receiver on this unit, but we're just going to kind of go through it. And I use an external, the line in for my microphone. So let's just go through the setup here. And normally, sometimes I like to use the spacebar to PTT the radio, so I click on that, so it's just a spacebar on, spacebar off. And then this DSP, if you ever notice the pan adapter kind of locking up on you for no reason, you can either hit stop start to reset it, or you can use this and it'll just automatically do that for you. So the next screen is options. I normally run this in high. Calibration, you're going to want to do that after you get everything running. The radio's been on for a little while. Have it calibrate it to WWV or some other kind of signal you have of a known frequency. I've got the second receiver, so I'm going to integrate you can't really see it yet, but enhanced signal clarity, diversity reception. I'm going to enable that. Don't use that interface. Okay, so I've got a PowerMate knob, so I'm going to activate that. And then it's got alternate tune steps. When you push the knob, I've got different, you can go different tune steps with the knob. So hit apply. Every once in a while, update your database. So that's going through the general, and now we're going to go to audio. Primary, I'm running a Flex 5000, so I can go 192. And this, when you're using the FireWire, some FireWire interfaces and motherboards and CPU horsepower, that you trouble running a high rate, and sometimes if you go to 48K, you'll notice it works better. This has nothing to do with the Flex 1500, which is only USB based. But for the 3000 and the 5000, sometimes you can't run this higher rate. It's because your FireWire is limiting factor. I like to run this slightly smaller buffer. And then for VAC1, I like to do this usually for just for mixing PC audio with like sounds, playing sounds from the PC over the air with this mix VAC and audio command using this number A. First thing I like to do those is change this to direct sound, and then this is going to use your default sound capture and playback or driver. I use Voicemeeter Banana drivers, which I think are the best, and they allow me to use WDMKS, which is the one of the faster, one of the it's one of the smallest latency. So, and it comes with two virtual cables, the aux and the regular cable, and then I can change this down to 50 milliseconds. But like I said, it's up to your PC how well your PC can handle it, and then you select which one you're dealing with. I always like to leave the sample rate at 48K, so it's a direct multiple of the 192 kilohertz or 96 kilohertz or 48 kilohertz, and then I like to run this as small buffer as possible. And then this would be for the IQ. Just remember, like CW Skimmer uses this. You turn this on for CW Skimmer. Just make sure you turn it off when you're done. Apply, and then the same for this one. Direct sound, and then I normally like to run the voice meter like that, and then you can dial these down to about 90. So these when you're using direct sound versus MME. Okay, that's the audio, and then like I said, this is for the virtual audio when you're talking to WSTTX, FL Digi, whatever digital programs you're using, slow scan, whatever. Display. Okay, so for the display, if you hold your mouse over, you'll usually get tooltips, so you can see this tooltip lighted up. So I normally leave this at -19. The step, I normally keep it at 6 because that's what the dB, every S unit is 6 dB. And these, let's see, so these, let me activate this real quick here. So I normally run, I right clicked on that to open that up. I normally run antenna 3. And let me turn that down. Oop, and that's one of the things you need to learn to do is always on top. Always on top, so that they won't fall behind PowerSDR. So I forgot to do that. But anyway, so the antenna, I do use a AM broadcast band filter in the RX1 loop on the back of the 5000, so I click that to put that in the loop. And I do have a second receiver, so I can click on the SO2R to allow me to treat this more like 2 radios, so that I can actually change my transmitter antenna as well as receive antenna when I'm going between VFOA, VFOB, which is RX1, RX2 in this case. I don't use the delays. But anyway, so we're on antenna 3 now. We're getting a signal. For the display, I like to set this up dark blue as the baseline, and then I set these down usually like 40 milliseconds. I put the frame rate about 35. Bring this up to about 400. Bring this down to about 50, so the meters move a little smoother. And then average. You click on average. That's averaging both pan adapter and waterfall. This is averaging just the pan adapter, which I like. I'd like to see all the detail in the waterfall. And if you want to make the waterfall a little bigger, you can grab onto that and move it up, so you can make more room for your waterfall or not. And then you can grab on here and move the baseline up, and if you notice, it's moving this auto grid level here. So this basically for the automatic, because if you change antennas, you change bands, the how much floor noise you get is going to change, so you can have that automatically adjust. And same for the water. But anyway, so, and if you, right here where it says auto water pan, if you left click, right click, then that will adjust sometimes, because sometimes the computer doesn't catch the change, and so it'll automatically override and adjust the levels for you as you change bands, things like that. So that is about it for this screen. Here's the AGCT line. Usually I give it a little more gain, and then if you right click here, you'll get this green line here, and then that's adjusting your threshold. See how the noise dropped off, and then you get it back into the noise, and you'll hear, now you're hearing the noise floor. So you right click to turn it on and off. So alright, so then that is the display. And then the next if we're just going down the list here, DSP, I normally don't change these, but I do normally change these to make the filters as sharp as possible. Now you notice that pause, that's just for safety. It stops, it basically hits the stop, so the DSP shuts down for a second while I'm making these changes to the buffers. So I normally like to leave these as big and sharp as possible. However, that does have an effect on the noise reduction circuits. They don't work quite as well when you have these sharper filters, but I prefer the sharper filters by far. And then you've got the stuff for your keyer, so I'm not going to mess with any of that right now. This right here, the leveler, the ALC, that's part of your transmit profile. Let's make this a little bigger. So we're on a default. I can right click and I can go right to transmit profiles, and then we're gonna save one that's a little bit bigger, like 3.5, and definitely don't want such a high bottom end. Go like right there. We're making this one for sideband. We're not making this for AM, so I'm going to zero out the carrier, and then I'm going to save it, and we're just going to call like this 3.5K SSB. I normally want to save my drive levels per band. I normally use a mic boost, so that stuff gets changed, and like I said, I got to save that for that profile. I normally use external EQing. And one other thing is up in the mixer, because I don't use the front, I use the line in, so I'm going to change that over to there, and then that's about the level I normally keep it at, right there. So that's what I'm using for, because I use only the balanced line in on the back of the 5000. So we are all saved there. I'm hitting apply. I don't like autosaves between for making changes. I want to make this to save myself, and I think it's really the best way to go. There's no PA, that's not for this radio. Appearance, okay, so appearance, I normally change a few things here. And what else do we do? Digits. Okay, so we normally just make those little changes there, and then on the display, I like the Panafall gradient. So you'll see there that makes this a color. This becomes colorful, and as the signal gets stronger, the colors will change as it moves up. And then when I turn on the maps, there'll be a when everything pops up there, that you can barely see that gray line. I like to make that gray line a little darker. So and then you can mess with the different colors in there, but I'm not going to mess with any of that right now. And then the meters, I do like the meters on top, and then turn the meter menu on. I do like combo for the second meter, and the reason is, and then I'll turn the meter menus off to save space. And I do like this better because then I'm looking at PowerSDR ALC mic, and the mic is live. And I'll turn on my external EQ equipment to bring that up, but then this microphone input is live on receive, so you can check your levels before you transmit. But the reason I like meters on top is because now I can add the band stack over on the side here, and it's showing for VFO-A and VFO-B. You can have two different band stacks running simultaneously. So that is and for these colors here, I normally change, let's see, on the display, active. I normally make that white. So that's the last thing I do for display. Okay, so display, and then nothing in keyboard. Cat is where it gets kind of hairy. I use virtual audio or virtual virtual cat COM ports. So this VSP manager, which is free, and I got a link on my webpage, allows you to make these basic virtual cables, like serial port cables that there's both ends of the cable, and each end of the cable has a different COM number. You can name them any convention you want, but so I don't use DDUtil anymore because I've got most of that stuff built in now, so there's really no need for DDUtil. But anyway, so I have CW skimmer. Okay, so CW skimmer is what I got there, and I've got these already signed. So 13, and then whatever 13 was, 12 would be on the CW skimmer side. So I keep like a little chart, and then for FL Digi, that's a COM9. WSGTX is COM19, and that's COM11. And then my logging program, COM15, because the logging program uses COM14. And then this right here is when you want to run two instances of something like WSJTX. You want to run, because SO2R. And if that program doesn't know how to manage your VFOB, you can fake it. This will make that program think it's talking to VFOA, but it's actually talking to VFOB. So this allows you to treat your flex as two separate radios. I use COM22 for that, and I changed the baud to right here. Okay, and then rotor control, because I actually do have a rotor control. Alright, so then we basically activate all these, and then I activate the polling on all these, and that is if the program will every time I make a VFO change, it'll automatically send data out the cat port and update everything. So and I had to have them individually because some programs turn that feature off. They'll override it, and I don't want it to override it for the other programs that need that. And then PTT, I do use that. Some programs, don't have any other way to PTT the radio, so I use that, usually like that. And then you'd enable it for whatever you want to use it, and then this would be over Ethernet. Apply. That's about it for that. And again, okay, so we went over the mixer for both input and output, the speakers, because I use headphones and speakers from the Flex. I don't take audio from the PC. I directly from that Flex. But anyway, so that's done. Memory. Let me click that. Takes a little time for it to come up, especially when I'm doing a recording at the same time. So I've got all these memories, a memory file already stored, a whole bunch of memories. You could set up recording schedules and always on top, and then saves a WAV file in a folder. Alright, so now we're gonna go back in to appearance, and I'm gonna do title bar off, ring on, so you can kind of see the edge of it, and then I normally do maximize, apply. So now we're running full screen. Let's get back to a band, and then now the next thing is we want to set up the spotter. So put your call sign in, and then latitude and longitude, for your transmitter, always on top. And then if I right click on here and then just delete all that, and then I can put in my LOTW password. Right click to close it. So now I can right click on here and it'll download my LOTW file. I don't have a lot. There are some people who have like 500,000 contacts, and it'll literally take an hour at the speed LOTW allows you to download. So I don't have that many. Alright, so then it gives us all these abilities to put spots up on the screen where they actually are, and they're all clickable. I've got videos on all that stuff, but you know, you can select what you want on the screen. I want spots from North American only since I'm in North America. Time sync, I'm going to click that. That'll update my PC's time clock. And then now I'm going to activate spotting using dxspots.com, port 23. You notice when my mouse goes over the window, it gets paused. And that's so if you're during a contest and a million spots are coming through, you can pause the spots as they come through. So I'm going to minimize that. And then the spotter screen up here, if I right click, I can go through the different screens, the F layer and the D layer, which is not doing anything today, and then real-time lightning. We got a lot of weather in the area, and the cloud map, and then left click to get back to the screen. Okay, so move this down, and then spots are appearing. The call sign appeared, so that means he's actually on 20 meters. Another 20-meter spot. These are not on 20 meters. And then here's that one spot right here. And then I can right click and then get QRZ page. But if you go to the actual spotting screen, it describes it up here, what you can do. So the spots are pouring in. I could just say I want to see only spots for the band I'm in. But anyway, that is pretty much everything for the basic setup. And again, oh, and then one last thing, the space weather, you click on that, click on it one more time, and you'll get your local weather based on the latitude, longitude that you put in here. So that's it for the basic setup. Let's see, there's CW panel, mixer, there's other things, but this is just the basic setup. One last thing, and that is the mic setup. Normally there's a few other tweaks to get good audio. Obviously you're going to want to adjust your mic level based on, you know, your mic output. I normally like to leave the DX compressor on just slightly. I use external EQ, but you're going to want to probably, you know, use something. I have on my website how you would set it up, you know, with my external EQ, but you could translate that to this with this parametric equalizer, the PEQ. You could translate that here if you wanted from, and again always on top. You could translate that here, make changes to the EQ, or you could be real simple, 10 band or the 28 band EQ, and it's in general it's where you usually you're notching out some of this area in the middle, and then you're usually boosting some of the low end and some of the high end, you know, depending upon your bandwidth. But like I said, I've got that kind of on my web page. But be aware, if you're using a ham radio microphone, they are usually set to cut off everything below, let's say 300 hertz anyways, and everything over, you know, maybe 3K, you know, they just lop it off anyway. So you can't boost something that's already been lopped off at the microphone. You really would need to have a studio microphone, a real full 20 hertz to 20k mic, and then you can EQ it here. You know, you can cut off everything, you know, all the upper end. You know, you could be, you have a lot more play if you've got a microphone that actually has audio, both the bottom end and on the top end. But if you're using, you know, a typical hand mic or mics for DXing or whatever, there's just nothing on the bottom end. They're never going to sound good. They're meant for DXing. You know, they're meant for communications. They're not meant for pleasant conversation. So you just got to be careful with the microphone you're using, as far as what you're going to be able to EQ. This is not quite as powerful as some other pieces of software and external EQs, but you know, like I said, if you have a full range microphone, then you can do quite a bit with this. You don't want to do too much on the low end. It'll just get muffly. You know, right here it's explaining the regions, you know, but you just got to be real careful. You know, you don't want to do too much, but usually you want to brighten up the high end a little bit. Usually you want to take a little bit of the mids out, you know, maybe bump the low end up just a little bit, but it might be easier to do it with the PEQ, and just, you know, like I said, follow what I got on the website. And one last thing in the setup, DSP, this leveler here, so the where is it now? So normally what I do here is I do leave the leveler on because you want to get more talk power out, but I turn this way down, otherwise it gets weird, you know, makes weird audio. So you got to be careful how you use it, but these are the settings that seem to work pretty good. Oops. Right here, and between this DX compression and the leveler, you can get pretty good audio out of it. And then I do like to see my transmit bandwidth up on the screen. I right click on here to open this up and save it. If you're running narrower, like below 4K, somewhere 3.5, you really can't go down to 0. It'll be too muffly. You need some high end to balance the low end. So then if you do make another profile, and let's say you're doing eSSB and you do a profile and you're going 6K, now you can go down to 0, and then I can save this as a 6K eSSB audio with this wider bandwidth. So the only time you can go that low is when you go higher, and then you'll get really good audio. And then I've got a whole section on my website about AM. For AM, if you're doing, let's say, like a 4K AM, the EQ for that is going to be totally different. You don't want any bottom end at all. You do bump up the high end a little bit, but as far as the EQ, if you were using this, it would be you bump this up a little bit, and you might even take some of this out down at the bottom, you know, lower it just slightly and elevate this slightly with the AM. It's a totally different EQ than for sideband. That's just the way it is with this one. And then this is probably going to start out to be like about 6, and then what you do is your drive level, you probably want your drive level close to 100% or all the way up, and then you adjust this ALC so that if 100 watts, if this radio can do 100 watts out, you want to get 25 with just a dead key, no audio, and that's what you adjust this level to get that 25 watts out. So I'm going to save this as a 4K AM. So and then it'll save it if you have the EQ here. It'll save it with the EQ that you're using. So it's a little bit different between the AM, but like I said, I've got that on there. And I think in the DSP, with the AM, you take this out when you're using AM. It's a slightly different. Let me see. It's a slightly different. Let me try to find it here on my web page. So the ALC is a 1 and the hang time of 10. So we're basically just taking out that ALC. This is just what I found to be pretty good. And then the let's see, the drive level, yep. And then sometimes I actually will run the compander instead of the compressor on that. But the ALC, okay. So apply, and then on the transmit I'm going to save that, and then now I've got profiles. Now I've got some profiles, a couple different profiles to go on, and that's it.